Welcome to the Frostpunk. Our generator is not pumping enough heat, we are running out of coal, disease is spreading, and politics is becoming more violent. Everyone hates us, so now the question is, can I survive 1,000 weeks in Frostpunk 2? Can I achieve every single objective the game throws at me? Can I make this doomed city thrive? Well, sit your frozen ass and get comfy, because we will try to accomplish what most deemed impossible: to beat Frostpunk 2 in the highest difficulty and live to tell the tale. This game is cruel and unforgiving. It punishes mistakes greatly, and one wrong step can take you to your execution rather quickly. So I'll have to focus on generating enough resources to satisfy every demand of the city, while trying to maneuver the politics of every single faction so I can enact laws without causing a civil war. It will not be easy, but we already knew that, right? Let's begin by constructing housing districts to allocate our population, frost break into the resources we have the closest, and set up extraction districts to pump that coal into the generator, baby! Food can be dealt with later since our stockpile is quite generous, so let's put our efforts into researching housing insulation and food energy efficiency. Oh! I just ran out of prefabs. And I don't have any way to get more of them. And it is getting colder. Well, people is now dying by the hundreds. Okay, and everyone hates me, and I can do nothing about it. Well, I guess it is a matter of time until Okay, lesson learned. Let's do all that all over again, but now this time I'll get some prefabs extracted and an industrial district that can produce them at any time. Sure, all our resources are deep in the red right now, but by doing this we will have a chance to recover eventually. To do just that, I'll need more heat stamps to get stuff done, so let's build the council hall and enter the turbulent world of Frostpunk 2 politics, baby! After deliberating for a while, I decided that paid essentials would be the best first law to bring into the council, as it would provide a good heat stamp income source to keep building the city efficiently. I wasn't sure the law would pass, so I made some deals with the lords, I am siding with the feudalists on this one, to get it approved. As I constructed a food district to solve the hunger crisis, and the council passed the harvesting funerals. Well, it was brought up to me that we had a cutthroat economy, and those who couldn't pay for basic necessities were struggling. Should I allocate an allowance, or keep things how they are? Well, okay, let's give them an allowance. I don't want them to suffer. While trying to expand and get things covered, all the stockpile ran out dry, and so, with that, more deaths. For whom the bell tolls, yeah, it tolls for my incompetence. This cannot keep happening, so let's take some drastic measures. Let's approve 24-hour shifts in the food district and excessive fertilization to have a positive balance. I remapped an extraction district to get more materials out of it, and started researching an untreated sawmill to increase our materials output even more. And then something happened. A radical faction known as the Icebloods formed. Hardened survivalists, resilient, and the most capable in the city. They embrace, above everything else, tradition and merit, and adaptation. Oh, and they wrestle polar bears for fun. So yeah, better have them on my side. For the next weeks, hey, we made it to week 100. I pandered to the Icebloods and the Forgers, pushing their agendas, so much in fact that the Icebloods started rallying in my favor in some housing districts. Now, don't look at the coal deficit. Yeah, nobody's dying from the cold. Everything is fine. I barely kept everything in place until another faction formed, the Technocrats, another radical group contrary to everything the Icebloods stand for. And they obviously hate my guts. Even though I tried to appease them a little, the technocrats began protesting throughout the city soon enough, shutting down critical infrastructure to keep the city alive, and with their ill-fated demonstrations, the city fell into chaos. To make matters worse, the first whiteout hit, with temperatures dropping to minus 80 degrees Celsius. So everything is falling apart, but hey, at least the protests are suspended. I managed to get through the storm, but at that point, the city had practically collapsed, with every single faction despising me and both radical groups protesting through the districts. So, after 257 weeks, I got exiled. As they say, third try's the charm, and so I tried to do everything I did last time but a little bit more efficient, trying to make it right before the whiteout with every single resource on a net positive. However, sacrificing everything for efficiency made most political factions pissed at me. Except for the Icebloods, of course, but they are gigachads, they can do whatever they want. But with everyone hating me, trust fell to an all-time low, and before I could even manage the whiteout, I was deposed for a general lack of trust and escaped with the Icebloods into the frost to live as nomads. Attempt 4 was a complete disaster I don't even want to comment on, and everything went south from the get-go. So there isn't that much to tell, except for the fact that I needed to revisit my general strategy, as there had to be something I was doing wrong to be failing constantly without making it past the first whiteout. So I just did that. I sat and I thought about revisiting my strategy, and I started planning. And while I just figure out the strategy I need to beat this challenge, I want to take the time to ask you to subscribe to Wild Rush if you enjoy the content we make. Most people who watch our videos aren't subscribed, and for small channels like us, it would mean the world to Weskis and I if you gave us support to keep making our silly little challenges. So hey, thank you so much if you have subscribed, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. On attempt number 5, I learned I could name the city, and so we can now officially call this Sandibana version 2.0. My new strategy was pretty simple. I would try to get as many explorers out there as I could as early as possible, to try to secure mines, hunt areas and settlements that could provide Sandibana with more materials. So I did just that, trying to get paid essentials approved once again and trying to get my research onto city alcohol shops, which is by far the most broken law possible, as it gives an enormous heat stamp income. For a while, the strategy seemed to work, and everything was running smoothly. However, relations with the different factions soon soured due to this and that, and soon enough protests had broken throughout the city. These protests crippled the city so much that once I got hit with the whiteout, my chain supplies were absolutely destroyed and unusable. Lots of people had died because of the cold, I didn't have a workforce to put in the districts, and thus, consequently, I was deposed of my position as a steward. Nothing was working. I knew the captain difficulty was ruthless, but I couldn't imagine that I wouldn't even get past 25% of the challenge. If I tried to focus on resources, then the political factions would plot against me and make the city crumble. If I focused on politics and tried to keep everyone happy, then I couldn't produce enough resources to keep the city going, and when the first citizens began to die, then everyone would hate me regardless. How was I supposed to keep the balance? How was I supposed to make it to 1,000 weeks and make the city thrive? The answer, of course, had to be hiding somewhere. And I had an idea. You see, I was playing passively the politics of Frostpunk 2, and it was time to become more aggressive. So I jumped into my 6th attempt and overall followed the same strategy that I had done previously on attempt number 5. Secure critical resources, get explorers out there as soon as I could, and research stuff as fast as I could, no matter the cost. The difference? This time, I tried to promise as much as I could and keep feeding the factions. I want to research something, and the Icebloods happen to want that as well. Promise them I'll do it. The technocrats want me to build a specific building that I find useful? Promise them I'll do it. Do I have enough heat stamps to spare? Give them to the factions. The radical factions are getting angry at me? Promote them. This new approach let me focus on resources and research while keeping building trust with the different factions at the same time. I managed to get to city-run alcohol shops, and by bringing the wonders of booze to Sondibana version 2.2, now it's final, for sure, for real, this is the good one, I was able to have a massive income and keep people relatively happy for a while. Explorers found lots of settlements and brought everything into the city, and although there were times when things got pretty bad, such as during the whiteout, I managed to come out on top and surpass week 300, a new official record in this challenge. However, as the city was developing and new policies were enacted, it was pretty obvious that at some point one faction would end up despising me, because I was unfavoring their laws. And that faction in question was the technocrats, radical machinists that made 40% of my population. Ugh, that's rough. In previous attempts, I would panic while most of the city fell to the protests and collapsed, and I would desperately try to appease the protesters to make the rioting end. This time, I had a different plan. I had been approving laws of emergency that gave me extraordinary powers to run the city, such as the Bureau of Propaganda, guided voting, or the Stewards Militia. I had approved them in times of overall trust, just in case, and soon enough they would come into play. But for now, I ended the protest with counter-protests. You see, the ice blocks were rallying behind me, and it was easy for me to manipulate them into attacking the technocrats. Sure, there were some casualties, some would even say a bloodbath, with their clashes, but this was done for the good of the city. Or at least, I told myself that. I had approved Apex Workers, a radical idea suggested by the Icebloods, which gave a huge efficiency bonus in workplaces that it was just too good to pass. But I pissed everyone else off by supporting that controversial law, and thus the Icebloods were my only support, politically speaking. But with the protests gone, I felt unstoppable, I'm not gonna lie. My explorers found settlements where we could establish colonies, and with a swift stroke, I solved both the population crisis my city was beginning to have and the food and oil deficit. I increased the city security by constructing watchtowers and a prison, as I feared the growing technocrat fraction would soon try a coup d'etat once again. And I would not let that happen. The city had to thrive, no matter the cost. On week 850, it was clear that everyone besides the Icebloods wanted to go after me. I kept trust high by fulfilling promises and letting everyone change laws and policies that wouldn't affect the base structure of the city. As long as the city-run alcohol shops kept selling booze and the Apex Workers kept going, I was fine with it. With our goal on the horizon, I began preparations for achieving the second objective of this challenge: to make the city thrive and reach a population of 35,000 in the settlements. So I focused on building and developing the now 3 settlements that provided raw materials, food and oil, and trying to accommodate as many people as possible there. I honestly felt confident I was going to make it. This was finally the run. However, right before week 1000, the technocrats decided to strike, organizing protests across the city. This time, I was prepared though. I sent all my guards to crush the protesters and restore order in the affected districts. If being loved by the city wasn't an option, then I would gladly be feared. So I made an example of the technocrats that had organized the protests to prevent any further attempts to disturb the city peace. And with that, we arrived to week 1000. And with a couple more weeks to fully develop my settlement plan, I made it. More than 1,000 weeks survived, my main objective completed, and a stable city that was run with an iron fist. Just as my predecessor in the first Frostpunk, I did what had to be done to survive. There was simply no alternative. Or was there? Thank you so much for watching the video. I love Frostpunk and its world, and this proved to be a hard challenge to beat. Anyways, I encourage you once again to support the channel by subscribing, liking the video, and commenting. And well, I guess I'll see you in future videos. Until we meet again,